Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The MLB offseason is moving, but things have cooled off considerably when it comes to the Philadelphia Phillies. There are still massive decisions looming about the future of this franchise, but there's one factor hanging over every single move John Middleton makes that doesn't get enough attention. The luxury tax. It's not the sexiest topic, but it might be the most important context for understanding why the Phillies are operating the way they are this offseason. Kyle Schwber got his deal, sure, but major questions remain unanswered. What does the final outfield actually look like on opening day? Who's catching? Does the bullpen need more work? What happens with Nick Castellanos? Is he getting traded, released, or are the Phillies eating money to move him? All of these decisions are being made with one eye firmly on the luxury tax bill that keeps climbing higher every single year. The luxury tax, officially called the competitive balance tax, is MLB's version of a salary cap, except it's not really a cap because teams can exceed it. They just have to pay increasingly punitive penalties for doing so. The threshold for 2026 is $244 million. Go over that, and you start paying taxes on every dollar of overage. But here's where it gets expensive. The penalties increase based on how many consecutive years you've been over the threshold. First year over, 20% tax on all overages. Second consecutive year, 30%. Third year or more, 50%. And that's where the Phillies are right now. They've been over the threshold for multiple consecutive years, which means they're paying the maximum penalty rate on every dollar they spend above that $244 million mark. But wait, it gets worse. There are also surcharge thresholds for teams that go way over the limit. If you exceed the base threshold by 20 to 40 million, you pay an additional 12% surcharge. 40 to 60 million over, that's a 42.5% surcharge in the first year, 45% in consecutive years. Over 60 million above the threshold, you're paying a 60% surcharge on top of the base tax. Let me put this in perspective. The Phillies paid $56 million in luxury tax for the 2024 season. That's the highest amount they've ever paid. It's the fourth highest in baseball, trailing only the Dodgers at a ridiculous $169 million, the Mets at $91 million, and the Yankees at $61.7 million. That's $56 million that didn't go to players, didn't improve the roster, didn't build infrastructure. It just went straight to the league office as a penalty for spending. Now, the optimist can look at this and say John Middleton is committed to winning. He's willing to pay whatever it takes to field a competitive roster year after year. And that's absolutely true to an extent. But there's also growing evidence that even Middleton has his limits, and we might be approaching them. Look at the Matt Strahm trade. The Phillies shipped out a reliable reliever with 1 year of control remaining and brought back a younger arm with more team control. The official line was about getting a player with more years of control. But let's be honest about what that move really was, salary relief. They cut about $7 million off the payroll in one transaction. You can frame it as creating flexibility to spend elsewhere, but it's also evidence that the credit card might be getting close to maxed out. The spending patterns of the last two off seasons tell a similar story. The Phillies haven't made a major free agent splash since signing Trea Turner. They haven't gone after the top-tier talent available. Instead, they've been signing guys like Max Kepler on one-year deals, Carlos Estevez on short-term contracts, targeting younger bullpen arms on team-friendly deals. These aren't the moves of a team operating with unlimited resources. These are the moves of a team that's trying to stay competitive while managing a budget that's already stretched extremely thin. And here's the thing, even for someone as wealthy as John Middleton, there comes a point where you have to look at the bottom line. When you're paying $56 million just in luxury tax penalties, that's real money, even for a billionaire. That's money that could theoretically go toward improving the team, but instead it's just lighting cash on fire as a penalty for previous spending. The Phillies are projected to be over the luxury tax threshold again in 2026. They're committed to massive contracts for Bryce Harper, Trea Turner, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and now Kyle Schwber. Those deals alone eat up enormous chunks of payroll. And when you add in the rest of the roster, you're well into penalty territory before you even consider any additional moves. This is why the lack of aggressive action this offseason matters. The Phillies have made their big swings already. They've signed their marquee free agents in previous years. Now they're operating around the margins, trying to fill holes without pushing the luxury tax bill into truly catastrophic territory. That might mean they're done making major moves. That might mean any additions will be on the cheaper end. That might mean they're going to ride with what they have and hope internal improvements or breakout performances bridge the gap. There's also the looming specter of the next CBA negotiations. The current collective bargaining agreement expires after the 2026 season, and everyone in baseball knows a work stoppage is coming. The players want to eliminate or significantly raise the luxury tax thresholds. Owners want more cost certainty and control. This is going to be ugly, and it's entirely possible the luxury tax system gets completely overhauled in the next agreement. But for now, the Phillies are operating under the current rules, and those rules are punishing them severely for sustained high spending. John Middleton has been more willing than most owners to pay those penalties in pursuit of championships, and he deserves credit for that. But every owner has a breaking point, and there's increasing evidence we might be approaching Middleton's. The Matt Strahm trade wasn't an isolated incident. It was a signal. The lack of big free agent signings these past two winters, another signal. The focus on one-year prove-it deals and younger, cheaper players, all signals pointing in the same direction. The Phillies are still trying to win, but they're doing it with one eye on the budget in ways they weren't a few years ago. This doesn't mean the Phillies are suddenly going to become a low-spending team. They're still going to have one of the higher payrolls in baseball, but it does mean we should probably adjust our expectations about what's realistic this offseason and moving forward. The days of the Phillies being players for every top free agent might be over, at least until they can reset the luxury tax penalties by dipping below the threshold for a year. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Resetting those penalties might require sacrificing a season of competitiveness. If the Phillies wanted to get back to the 20% first-year tax rate instead of the 50% third-year rate, they'd need to get under the threshold for 1 year. That would mean shedding payroll, potentially trading good players, and accepting a step backward in the short term for long-term financial flexibility. Is John Middleton willing to do that? Based on everything he said publicly about wanting to win now and bringing a championship back to Philadelphia, probably not. But at some point, the math becomes unavoidable. You can't keep paying $50+ million in luxury tax penalties every single year indefinitely. Eventually, even the wealthiest owners have to make hard choices. The Phillies are in a tough spot. They're committed to massive contracts that aren't going anywhere. They have an aging core that's running out of championship window. They're paying enormous luxury tax penalties that make every additional dollar spent exponentially more expensive. And they're trying to compete in a division and league where other teams are spending just as aggressively without the same penalty burden. This luxury tax situation is the invisible hand guiding every decision the Phillies make from here forward. It's why certain moves happen and others don't. It's why the offseason has been quieter than fans hoped. And it's why we might need to recalibrate expectations about what this team can realistically accomplish through free agency and trades. The money's already been spent. Now they're trying to maximize what they've got while keeping the penalties from spiraling completely out of control.